Hi everybody. Been a while. Thought I would record a quick video because I actually had something to talk about for once that I thought might be a little bit of a unique take on something. And that is why somebody would use Emacs. Now, that's kind of a weird thing because I am a VI/Vim user, not a NeoVim user or any of those kind of things. I'm just a VI/Vim user, and I have been since about 1996. And for whatever reason, I decided I would finally kind of get around to giving Emacs some legitimate consideration. And I think I will probably still stay in the camp of using VI and Vim. But I don't think they're the same thing at all. And one of the things I hear brought up oftentimes is people asking for a succinct, straightforward reason why you should use Emacs. And I think as somebody who's kind of coming in from the outside, I can provide something of an answer to that, even though I may not necessarily be somebody who uses it sort of day to day. So over here, I've got Emacs open. Yes, this is a Windows machine. I make money doing computing stuff, and part of that is if customers or clients have specific requirements about the operating system I use, that's what I use. I'm a professional. I'm not an idealist. So this is an org mode document. I'm not going to talk about org mode and why it might be nice, why you might like it, why you might not like it. I was just kind of playing around with it. So what I think Emacs is a universal set of customizable key bindings that you can use to interface with a wide variety of different applications, right? So the idea is when you're working in Emacs, there's something called a buffer, right? So a buffer is memory that's allocated to do something, right? So that's basically a memory buffer, right? In this case, it's a text buffer. A buffer is an interface for something, and you interact with that buffer using Emacs. So Emacs is basically your mechanism to input and output from that thing, right? And this is an interesting idea. So to me, Emacs and Vim have almost nothing in common. They're not the same application. They're not the same kind of application, I should say. They are different classes, different types of applications, which is why you can see, for example, Emacs has something called evil mode, which basically emulates Vim inside of Emacs. Effectively, what you're going to be interacting with are generally eLisp applications that do particular things. So here are some eLisp applications that we're using. One is EWW. EWW is a text-based web browser in the same vein of something like W3M or Lynx. And I think that this is a really, really, really nice alternative to those things. I think for me, this may actually be something that I use because this is just text and images, and that's it, right? There's no fluff here, right? This is very straightforward, very simple. You want to go use it, you type your meta key or alt, and then you type EWW, hit return. It's going to go ask you what URL you want to go to, and you can do whatever URL it is. So let's say you want to go to /dot, which I think is appropriate for a text-based browser. And the idea is This is very, very similar to a text UI, but it has the ability to support things like images natively within it. So it's very, 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 very similar to text, but it's also a GUI program. It is just very text oriented. And then you have the same interface bindings that you would have in your text editor, right? So I can do Control N, for example, and that takes me down. I can do P, takes me back up. I can do E to go to the end of a line, all that kind of stuff. Return takes me to down a link, all the kind of stuff that you would expect, right? It is this same interface that you would use when navigating a text buffer. You're doing this with a web buffer, right? Likewise, it's pretty quiet in this IRC channel for whatever reason, but this is a emacs IRC client. Wow, seems like IRC is pretty dead today, but you get the idea, right? You can go ahead and do Control B, back, and Control P to go up and down lines, right? Different key bindings in Linux, but if you use the evil mode, it would be Vim style key bindings. Here we have dired, which is a directory editor. It's basically equivalent to your Ranger or Midnight Commander or any one of those kind of deal. You've got eShell, which is sort of like a bash work-alike kind of built in. I'm on a Windows machine, so that's a little bit wonky, but you get the idea. You want to go ahead and use your standard key bindings. Control P takes you up, takes you down. These are all text, right? So you can navigate all the same way. So this feels like a console, can support things like images. And to my mind, this is sort of like the Vim power user philosophy in reverse, right? So if you're somebody who becomes very, very, very comfortable in Vim, one of the things that you will oftentimes do is look for other programs with Vim key bindings, right? So you'll find a web browser that has support for Vim key bindings. You'll find a email application that supports Vim as a editor. That's not what Emacs does, right? If you want to go ahead and edit a document and you want to go extend it, you'll go ahead and do, a colon exclamation point, and then or colon dot exclamation point, and you'll take the text that you have selected visually, and then you go export that to a command and filter that and put it back into Vim. At least in my opinion, that's the way you should do it. Most people nowadays use NVim and or NeoVim, and they have plugins, that's a whole different topic. But Emacs's philosophy is you use Emacs for your input, so you have a standard set of key bindings. You have the thing that you're doing, and then you have the output. So Emacs works almost like a wrapper around the stuff that you're doing, so you can have a cohesive, comprehensive way of interacting with the programs that you use. It's somewhere in between the Windows Manager, although there is a variant that is a Windows Manager, and a basic application that's like a almost more like a REPL, right? So it's an interesting idea, but to my mind, that's why you would use Emacs, right? You want a consistent user interface and experience with a wide variety of applications, and you want them all to kind of work seamlessly with each other, right? So you can go jump back and forth between the buffers. You can use all the same search tools. You can go manage text in all the same way, because ultimately at the end of the day, if you're in a Unix system and you have a Unix philosophy about how you do things, you're managing streams of text, right? That's the whole idea, right? And to my mind, for a very long time, the way that I looked at Emacs was it was not in line with the Unix philosophy because it was doing lots of things as opposed to just one thing. But the way that I think about this now is that the one thing that it's doing is providing a consistent mechanism for the way that you interface with text-related tasks. I'm not saying you should use it. I'm playing around with it. It's probably going to be a secondary, tertiary kind of editor for me. Who knows? Maybe I'll get religion on it, but I think it's unlikely. So take care, and who knows? Maybe we'll upload another video to the channel in the future at some point.